December deems fit for celebration because seeing the last month of the year deserves an extraordinary treatment. Well, for Christian community, the birth of Jesus Christ makes it a double celebration. Granted, this moment needs the best of treatment, but extravagant spending or non-budgeting this December can lead one to financial crunch in January, because the journey in January is usually a long one. So how can one be prudent in December in order to survive January without being a burden to others? Well, this is the concern for Panorama this Monday. Please stay tuned on your channel of choice. Welcome. I'm Ruth Aguele. ECOWAS has officially acknowledged the decision of the three countries of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger to opt out of the regional bloc as from the 29th of January 2025. Well, this is one of the major outcomes of the 66th Ordinary Summit of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government held in Abuja. State House correspondent Musbahuddin Wahab reports that the authority, however, leaves room for mediation and reconsideration by the dissenting countries.
The 66th Ordinary Summit takes ECOWAS much closer to its 50th anniversary. Hence, the need for some stock-taking. The body appraised progress made in its process of regional integration, peacekeeping and infrastructural projects in member states. However, the chairman acknowledged some drawbacks manifesting in crisis and political instability in parts of the continent and the sub-region. And so, despite the progress, President Tinubu is encouraging member states to redouble efforts on the fundamentals of governance.
We must not lose sight of our fundamental responsibility, which is to protect our citizens and create an enabling environment where they can prosper. As leaders, we are fully aware that security is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Equally, enhancing the living standard of our people is not an aspiration, but an obligation.
ECOWAS commended the incumbent Vice President of Ghana, Mahamadou Bawumia, candidate of the New Patriotic Party, NPP, in December 7th presidential election for conceding defeat early enough before the announcement of the results. But more celebrated is the outgoing president, Nana Akufo-Addo, whom President Tinubu described as a Democrat for his commitment to democracy and the successful implementation of ECOWAS institutional reforms.
I therefore invite all of us to give him a standing ovation and more applause. And all of us in the region to learn from this good democratic practice and prioritize our country's national unity to ensure political stability of the region. That this manner of peaceful transition, because the culture of democracy is not only in West Africa, but also in the entire African continent.
However, the community got to a milestone on the decision of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger to vacate their seats on the bloc. Months of mediation by several emissaries of the body, including President Faure Singbe of Togo and Bassirou Diomaye Faye of Senegal, have apparently not convinced the dissenting countries to reconsider their decision.
The three countries will officially cease to be members of ECOWAS from 29 January 2025. The authority decides to set the period from 29 January 2025 to 29 July 2025 as a transitional period and to keep ECOWAS doors open to the three countries during the transition period. The authority directs the President of the Commission to launch withdrawal formalities after the deadline of 29 January 2025.
It's like a marriage. If you want to depart, you have to move your things out of a house, who owns what, and there are certain agencies under ECOWAS that are domiciled in those countries. So all of that has to be sorted out. During that 6-month period, the Authority of Heads of State has directed that ECOWAS redouble its efforts to ensure that these three countries don't leave. And the door still remains during the 6-month period for them to remain.
ECOWAS also commended Nigeria under President Bola Tinubu for what the Commission's president described as exemplary by fulfilling its financial obligation to the body up to date. From the State House, Musbal and Wahab, NTA News.
The Theatre Commander Operation Hadinkai has dismissed the claim by Amnesty International that since the start of Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, over 10,000 civilians have died in Nigerian military detention facilities. Speaking to defense correspondents on media tour to the northeast, organized by Defense Media Operations, the theatre commander says the pronouncement by Amnesty International is mischievous and lacks merit, particularly as it comes at the end cycle stage of the counter-terrorism war in the northeast.
How many military detentions can occupy 10,000? When people throw out figures anyhow, have you ever seen 10,000 people arranged in a hall, in a place? I'm sure most of them have not even spoken to 1,000 people before. When you say 10,000 people die in detention, that's not true, just as has been said earlier on. The same figure they sent about the 10,000 abortions that here in the northeast, which the National Human Rights Commission have absolved the military from that. Following that, they brought up this figure. So it's part of their imagination, and I don't think there's anything like that.
Major General Wadi Shaibu reiterates that the armed forces, under the leadership of the CDS, General Christopher Musa, remains professional in carrying out its constitutional mandates in line with global best practices. In other news, Court-Martial Federal Road Safety Corps, Shehu Mohammed says the Corps has deployed over 42,000 regular and special marshals for effective traffic management nationwide during the Yuletide. In an exclusive interview with correspondent Oyeyemi Ajayi, the Court-Martial says this marks the commencement of a 30-day end-of-the-year special operation nationwide, while stating that all sector and zonal commanding officers across the country have been directed to ensure proper supervision of the personnel deployed for the exercise.
The theme for this year's end-of-year patrol is speak up or speak out against dangerous driving, because crashes kills more passengers than drivers, and therefore the emphasis this time around is not only on drivers, the motor park rally. We stage out probably what we call the town hall meetings. The strategy this time around is more on the passenger, the commuters. We felt that we should sensitize the commuters, the passengers more through the public education aspect of what we are doing, the public enlightenment and advocacy. So that we reach out to all that are potential drivers, potential commuters, potential passengers, so that let them know that they have the right to caution the driver whenever the driver is dangerously driving or carelessly driving, for him to take caution and return to the normal driving culture. Not only that, we also ask the passengers to also use our mobile app mobile app is a one-stop shop for them to be able to make proper use of the road so that they enjoy their travel.
He stated that adequate logistics, including tow trucks, patrol vehicles and motorbikes, have been provided to remove obstructions, while ambulances and officers would be on 24-hour duty to attend to emergencies during the operation. The Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission is set to flag off the 2024 pilgrimage to Israel and Jordan. Executive Secretary of the Commission, Bishop Stephen Adegbite, made this known in Abuja at the 2024 Christmas Carol as part of the Commission's program for the Yuletide. Bishop Stephen Adegbite notes that the first batch of the pilgrims for the 2024 pilgrimage exercise will depart Lagos on the 22nd of December, with the intending pilgrims from Lagos State.
We are running through from, we have not done the one for Easter, the one for main pilgrimage, so we are combining the two. Once we start 22nd December, we are running it to April, May of next year until we finish by the special grace of God. And we must thank Mr. President for the support we have received. We don't take that for granted. It shall be well with him and his cabinet.
The Commission also prayed for the national coexistence among Nigerians. All right, I told you at the start that we have a conversation on budgeting for December, so you can have less burden in January. Well, we have a life coach in the studio, Mr. Samuel Chukwu. Samuel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ruth, and Merry Christmas to you.
In advance, Merry Christmas to you. I could smell Christmas, right? So it just makes me want to ponder on this question. Does one need a budget for December, really? Because you've planned the whole year saving up to give yourself a good treat, during the festivities.
Yeah.
Why do I need a budget?
Yeah, thank you for that very, very timely question. If there's any time you need a budget, it's even in December, and that's because we are known to be a society that likes to spend, and for good reasons. I remember growing up as a child, and we looked forward to the archetypal Christmas cloth, and every child wanted that outfit. And the truth is, many marketers have pounced on that culture, so to speak. And if you're not careful, you spend all you have in December, forgetting that January, as they say, has more than 30 days. So it's very important that you plan, because as it is said, if you do not, if you fail to plan, you're in essence, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail in essence. So I think budgeting is most important, especially in December.
So now for families, what should they put into consideration as you're planning your budget? Because there'll be a lot of spending, there's a lot of travels, there will be visitors, there will be sharing to the needy. So how do you plan that budget?
Yes, when you're planning your budget, one of the things that should come to mind are the essentials. In budgeting, there are things that are non-negotiables, the basic necessities of life, food, clothing, and shelter. Many people may not have their own houses, they may stay in rented apartments, and that's fine. The rent, with the turn of the new year, the rent would be due at some certain point in time. Besides that, you would need to stock up for the Yuletide season, and that's besides the celebratory food you would need. And also, you might also need to have some certain things for exigencies, or what we call unforeseen circumstances. No one prays for them, but in essence, you have to have some little things to buffer up in case those things arise. Then besides the essentials, you have the wants, and that can fall within the place of luxury. It's okay to indulge in a little bit of luxury, but you cannot spend all you have on luxury, and that's because, like I said, on January is knocking around the corner, and if you spend all you have on luxury, what would you have for the essential when the time comes? When we were growing up, we had this quote about cutting your cloth according to your size. But after a while, we realized
according to your cloth,
initially we used to call it according to your size. Then we now realized that the material may not be up to your size. And we said, okay, cut it according to your cloth. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that quote. So do not feel pressured by what your neighbors are doing or what your friends are doing. Remember that you need to save up for the essentials, and then you can indulge in a bit of luxury as much as you have.
You know, I feel for parents who have children who will keep disturbing them this season because children don't want to know how you do it.
That's true.
But you just have to do it for them. It's Christmas, and it happens once in a year.
Yeah,
now,
true.
so what would you advise, you know, families, in as much as we're having a budget, families are having a budget, in as much as you're looking at your needs and not your wants, trying to be prudent, how do you also reach out, extend that love for the season? Because let's not take away the essence of the season.
Very true. And that's a very good question, because one area of pressure that most parents would face will be coming from the perspective of their children. There's no parent that doesn't want their child to be happy.
Of course.
But I've said it time and again, it now depends on what your definition of happiness would be. Growing up, my parents would take us on walks, would take us on take us to certain places for sightseeing. You must not break the bank to please your children. If not for anything, children want to spend quality time with their parents. So I'm not a parent myself, but I can say as someone who is a child, I understand that children can be quite burdensome when it comes to the Yuletide season. So what parents need at this point is wisdom. Wisdom not to break the bank, but wisdom to see how they can satisfy the deepest need of the child, which is connection. You could also, if the children are older, you could make them see reason that things may not be the way they are, but you could also show some certain kind of effort. So I feel for parents, considering the economic situation, but I also believe that with proper wisdom, you could make your children's Christmas worth the while. I give a very good example. In those days, there were certain parents that could not afford to buy cake during children's birthday. They will buy puff and they will celebrate, and the children would still
use rice.
Yeah, all rice, exactly. So it's a matter of communicating with the children. Do not dismiss them. Do not shout at them and say, oh, things are tough. Of course, they should know by now that things are tough. But with godly wisdom, you could make it a worthwhile celebration for the children and for the family at large.
So after all said and done, not preempting Christmas, but let's just creep into January. Of course, most people want less burden.
Yes.
January is usually, they say, is usually more than 30. You know, the numbers in that month is something else. So how can people start planning ahead, you know, for January?
Yes. In order to plan, there's a quote by a philosopher called Will Rogers. He said, do not spend money you do not have to buy things you do not need to impress people you do not care about. And I'll take it again. Do not spend money you do not have to buy things that you do not need to impress people that you do not care about. So one of the first things you must do with the income that you have is to plan through budgeting. Of course, like we said earlier on, there might be unforeseen circumstances. We do not pray for that, but if it comes, we understand that there's some things in life that you can control, and there's some things you cannot control. So what you can control, you should control, prepare for, and plan for. And there's a reason why most times January seems long, and that's because salaries are paid in December. And when you spend all you have in December, you still have January to contend to. You might have children's school fees, you might have rent, and so on. So moving into the new year, what is most important should be the plans, the goals that you have, because as it is said, where there's life, there is hope. So we believe that you should not spend all you have in December, trusting that January would be a very fruitful month and a prelude to what will be a fruitful 2025.
I'll say a big amen to that wish or prayer.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samuel Chukwu, for your time on Panorama.
Having me. Thank you.
And I wish you a beautiful celebration ahead.
I wish you too.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening in unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together lift the tree of a land with destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the Real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Thank you for staying tuned. The National Orientation Agency is carrying out a nationwide sensitization campaign on key federal government policies. The agency we hear was in Calabar, Cross River State, for a similar task. And Paul Abel reports.
National Orientation Agency is living up to its responsibility with timely information and orientation on federal government activities and addressing concerns of Nigerians on current issues. Leading the campaign to Cross River State is the DG represented, and 5 issues are being addressed, which include HIV/AIDS and stigmatization, Nigerians being aware of their human rights, security awareness, shunning the get-rich-quick syndrome, and the tax reform bills.
We are commencing a nationwide mobilization of Nigerians to unite in our commitments to addressing these pressing issues and fostering a more informed, secure, and ethical society. The challenges before us require collective action and active participation from all Nigerians.
The DG also explains the benefits of the tax reform bills.
Taxation is essential for funding national development, but we recognize that it has been a source of concern for many Nigerians due to issues like multiple taxation and its impact on low-income earners. To address these challenges, the government is implementing reform to make the system fairer and less burdensome for citizens.
There are so many benefits accruing in these tax reforms that even those who earn less are being taxed less.
During the interactive session, the NOA appeals for collective responsibility from all citizens, stakeholders, and institutions to make Nigeria better, as the federal government has already commenced measures to impact the lives of the people. In Calabar, Paul Abel, NTA News.
Talking sports, the 2024 CAF Awards will take place tonight, and our correspondent Austin Edemodu examined the chances of Nigerian nominees compared to other competitors.
2024 edition of the prestigious CAF Award is around the corner. As usual, final lists of nominees have been published by CAF after what can be described as a painstaking exercise. Interestingly, Nigeria leads the pack with 6 nominees across different categories. In the CAF Men's Player of the Year category, Nigeria and Atalanta forward Ademola Lookman is amongst the favorites to succeed Victor Osimhen.
Going by the performance of Lookman, who at the end of last season scored 3-goal hat-trick in the final of a UEFA Cup, winning the cup for his team, Atalanta. Away from there, the Nations Cup followed, and you see how he made sure he led Nigeria to the final.
In the Women's Player of the Year category, Nigeria and Paris FC goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie is in the running for the 2 awards, the African Women's Player of the Year and Goalkeeper of the Year awards.
CAF would like to give her the goalkeeper and give another person the CAF player award, but if she gets to win the both of them or win any of them, anyone that comes, she deserves it.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's national team, the Super Eagles, are amongst the finalists for the National Team of the Year. Nigeria's club side, Edo Queens, who reached the semi-finals of the African Women's Champions League, are amongst the finalists for Women Club of the Year.
Definitely the host nation, Morocco, looked to be in an advantage, having a nominee both for men and women. Same time, I think we also have individuals who are the voting college, you know, who they know, how much they've seen the person. I think this, it's quite numerous, the factors that could involve, and you know, it could also be down to you liking a player over another, I know parts of a player being your favorite. So many sentiments, and I don't think it's even beyond politics.
The 2024 CAF Award is scheduled to take place on Monday, December 16th in Marrakesh, Morocco. I'm Austin Etemodu, NTA News.
I'll be rooting for Team Nigeria because proudly Nigerian, right? And that's Panorama. Do have a lovely day ahead. Thank you for being part of it. I'm Ruth Agruele.